Hello and welcome to the Twins Off Daily podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at twinsdaily.com, the finest source for all independent Minnesota Twins coverage on the entire interwebs. We are coming to you again on day 2 of our All-Star Podnanza. There's 5 off days for the Minnesota Twins. You're going to get 5 episodes of the Twins Off Daily podcast. I'm your host for today's show, Sweet Lou Hennessy, and I'm gathered here with my dear partner, Mr. Gregory T. Masterson. Greg, we got the All-Star game coming up. What's going on, buddy?
I'm now thinking, I think Cody's brought it up, but we are going to be in some trouble once we hit the off season and we've got to record one of these every single day.
Whew. Bonus is going to have to start paying us. I don't know.
One of these days, he's going to have to give us some sort of money. John, pay us more.
Eventually. I mean, I'm sick of giving him everything from my wallet. So we'd love to give.
We pay to publish these blogs and podcasts. We're doing it out of the kindness of our hearts.
Maybe we have to invite him on. Maybe that's the key here, is to invite John onto our show. If you're here, I don't know, man. That's some bad blood. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, we are very excited to be with you here on, like we said, day 2 of our All-Star Podnanza. We are not recording this live on Tuesday before the All-Star game. We are recording this on Sunday. So if there is some news and notes between now and then that make us sound pretty clumsy in this episode, that's why. But we will get more into that later on as far as news and notes go. But we figured that today's episode, we would just mostly focus on a All-Star centric conversation, seeing as how tonight is the big game in Arlington, Texas, in their giant aircraft carrier of a stadium there. So let's talk about it. The Twins, as of this moment, have 2 All-Stars heading to the game. Shortstop Carlos Correa and super utility player Willi Castro, which was a very fun development. So both those two, I would say, earned the honor for sure. It still remains to be seen if they will make it into Tuesday night's game, but it's still an honor nonetheless, and hopefully they can enjoy in the festivities, and we'll see what happens. But Greg, what are your first impressions out of hearing that Carlos Correa and Willi Castro are selected to the All-Star game? If before the season, if somebody had told you that, what would you think?
Yeah, I mean, if Carlos Correa heads to the All-Star game, I think one of the things, I wouldn't have been surprised. However, it is strange. Like, Carlos Correa is this huge name in baseball. He might not be like, a top 10 name in baseball, but he is a quite, in some ways, notorious, in some ways famous, infamous, the whole 9 yards that comes with playing for the 2010s evil empire in the Astros. This is only his 3rd All-Star appearance, and this is his 10th year. And I think that a lot of people would find that somewhat surprising. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. I do think it's interesting, kind of the juxtaposition of the Twins' 2 All-Stars here, where Correa is having, at this point, probably his 2nd best year of his career. He is already, he's a multi-time All-Star. He's agreed to several $1 million contracts in the course of the 2022 offseason. And it's just like, if you were to tell me that Carlos Correa is an All-Star, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. There's a kind of a feel-good aspect to this story, if anybody can actually feel good about anything Carlos Correa has ever done. But coming off of the rough year that he had last year with plantar fasciitis, and the fact that there might be more plantar fasciitis now is a bit of a wrinkle in that storyline. But that's you've got a superstar level player signed to a superstar level contract who's having one of the best years of his career at the age of 29. And it's like, that's a totally normal All-Star. Willi Castro, on the other hand, Willi Castro is your favorite ball player's ball player, if you will. Like, he's a little bit of a deep cut. where he's having a very good year. He's having probably the best year of his career outside of his abbreviated 2020 season statistically. But, the real inside baseball is just how valuable he's been. He's, we've cited this stat ad nauseum, but he's had 5 positions where he's played 20 times. He has been in the right place at the right time for the Twins. Anytime Buxton, Correa, Lewis, your 3 biggest names have gone down, he has stepped in and filled in that role. He has been all over the place, and he's just having a really, really productive year, but in a way that is so valuable to a team that generally doesn't get recognized. Other than like Ben Zobrist, I'm struggling to think of a player in recent baseball history who's been in this role and has been named an all-star.
Yeah, just top to bottom, I think without either of these 2 players on the Twins this year, I don't think they're in the position where they are right now, where they're firmly in the playoff picture and just 4.5, right? Games?
4.5 as we speak. Yeah.
As we speak, 4.5 games back of Cleveland. But
they'll
still
be somewhere between 5.5 and 3.5 back by the time people listen.
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of, I think they're, this development, these stories of them having these really stellar seasons have come at a perfect time. And, for Carlos Correa, he has at least 2 other years where he didn't make the all-star team, but then ended up having all-star caliber seasons by year's end. I'm including his rookie season. I don't think he made the all-star team that year because I think he debuted in like June or something. So that's too quick of a turnaround.
Yeah. He only played 100 games.
Yeah. So, but still, he had I think he won Rookie of the Year that year. It was like him, Lindor, and Sano were kind of the big 3 rookies in the American League that year. But he ended up having a stellar season. And then his first year with the Twins ended up being an excellent campaign as well. And, if you just saw his numbers, you'd be like, yeah, I'd believe that he made the all-star team that year. But alas, this is his first with the Twins. And if you would have told me before the season that he would be named an all-star, I'd say that's a big relief, because this is a huge contract that obviously the Twins are really banking on the front half being really productive, and you kind of take whatever you get in the second half of that 6-year pact. So it's really good to see that at least one of those campaigns, he still had the all-star juice in it. And Willi Castro, boy, he's just so easy to like. Like I said, he's one of my wife's favorite Twins because his scoreboard fun fact was that he could bark exactly like a dog. Get that dog to Texas, baby. I love that. I love hearing these kind of fun things. He's really enjoyable to watch. He's got so many different elements to his game. Really likable player, and just where he came from, just the fact that they signed him from a division rival to a minor league pact with an invite to spring training, and then he ended up having a really good year last year and an excellent year this year. Those are awesome developments, and really happy for those 2. And it kind of leads us to our next question. Who else would you have liked to see go to this All-Star game?
Yeah, I mean, the straightforward answer is Byron Buxton. I think he is one of the top center fielders in the game right now. He has been healthy. He has missed a little bit of time, but like by Byron Buxton standards, he's been very healthy this year. And he's playing in a defense position that he is one of the top defenders in the league. I believe he's like 6th in like the defensive metrics, behind a bunch of people who have played more outfield than him because he did miss a little bit of time. And he's been a very far above average hitter. He has not been hitting kind of the home runs that we are used to in the last few years. But he has been spraying the ball all over the place. He's been doing the little Byron Buxton dink single that somehow becomes a double, the stretch doubles that somehow become stand-up triples. He has turned it on, especially in the last month and a half, which, does diminish. He did not start the season well. And so it's, you've got the primacy bias, can kind of cloud people's evaluations of him. But Byron Buxton is one player that I really would have liked to see make it.
Yeah, that's a good call.
To you. Yeah,
that's a really good call. And I don't think people realize the degree to which Byron Buxton defensively is graded almost on a different scale than every other center fielder. He, at least, throughout his career, that's kind of been the case, just with how fast and how crazy long that stride is. Even in this year, after how many years of leg injuries, his sprint speed has still been up to almost 30 feet per second, which is elite territory. He's still got the juice, man. And he has, the games that he just takes over and dominates with, like, a 3-for-4 outing with some of those, doubles for everybody else, but a stand-up triple for him. He's really dominated some of these games, and would have been really fun to see him go with Carlos, especially the two of them together going to the All-Star game. Would have been a ton of fun. Like we said, this is happening on Sunday. Substitutions, we're recording this on Sunday. Substitutions are still announced today and tomorrow, and even up to Tuesday. Remember a few years ago, Taylor Rogers, they just called them. They're like, "Hey, you live in Colorado, right? Are you going to be around? Do you want to come pitch in the All-Star game?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, man. I'll be there in like a half an hour."
He literally lives 30 minutes from Coors Field down in Littleton, like that.
Right. It's crazy. But so, Byron Buxton's the easy answer. Joe Ryan is another easy answer. That's always going to be a tougher field, just because that's something that people love to see in the playoffs is starting pitchers, and there's always going to be a lot of really good starting pitchers. But he's had a really good year top to bottom, and I think we'll gladly take what we've seen from Joe Ryan. And then Griffin Jacks too in the bullpen would have been a ton of fun. He's had a buzzsaw-like campaign, I like to call it. And I think if this game was 1 month later and there was 1 month more of save opportunities, I think Yohan Duran becomes part of the conversation, because he is the national name. And especially with the relievers, you're looking for the fireball guys, the guys who can strike out 3 in a row. And if he is anything like he was last Saturday night against the Giants, where he was touching 104 miles per hour, that's what the All-Star game is about. They really want to showcase some of the elite talents. And I think with 1 more month of what we've seen from Yohan Duran in some of his recent outings, I think he would have been firmly in that conversation. But it kind of leads us to our next point, which is, who are some of your favorite kind of forgotten Twins all-stars throughout the years? There's some guys who only make one with the club, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot he was in the all-star game. The Twins have a handful of those guys. One of my favorites personally is Eduardo Nunez from that dreaded 2016 season. That was a year when Nunez was, I would say, it was pretty well earned. He had a really good campaign that year. It was that year when his helmet fell off. Anytime he turned 1 degree to either direction, it would just shoot off of his head. Greg, how about you? Any names come to mind as favorite forgotten Twins all-stars?
And sorry, Nunez was traded 3 weeks later, right?
Yes, yeah.
I believe they did that 2 years in a row, because they also traded Brandon Kinsler the next year in 2017, yes. which is hilarious for a team to do. In 2016 and 2017 were very different years, but still, it is super goofy to turn around and say, who would like our all-star? We will give you our all-star. Please take our all-star.
As long as you got an Adalberto Mejia to offer us, we're in.
Well, the return for those guys was Adalberto Mejia, and Kinsler was not. I don't believe that whoever Kinsler was traded for ever made it into the majors.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Remember that correctly.
Let's get producer Lenny.
Producer Lenny can take care of that while I name some more names.
Yeah,
you can't talk about former Twin all-stars without mentioning the Coom Dog, Ron Coomer, in 1999. Just an incredible wait, that guy was an all-star situation. Yeah. Legendary Ron Coomer is one of many Twins who has been named to a single all-star game and then ended up on TV for them.
Okay.
That was a fun stretch. Matt Lawton was also an all-star, kind of in the same wheelhouse back in 2000. So back to back, your all-stars were Ron Coomer and Matt Lawton. That's a fun one. And just going the next 2 years as well, there is a handful of Twins that you think back and you were like, oh yeah, they were fine Twins. They weren't incredible. They weren't, borderline Hall of Famers, whatever. But if you told me that the Twins in the course of 2 years sent Torrey Hunter, which, yeah, of course, Torrey Hunter is going to make an all-star game or two, but also AJ Pierzynski, Eddie Guardado, Eric Milton, Christian Guzman, and Joe Mays all to the all-star game within 2 years, like those are some names that you might forget even played for the Twins, especially if you're of a certain age. Very much hey, yeah, that guy's fine, like I like him on my team. Wait, how did all of those guys make the same all-star game? So in 2002, Torrey Hunter, AJ Pierzynski, and Eddie Guardado all made it. In 2001, Eric Milton, Christian Guzman, and Joe Mays were all all-stars. That's a heck of a run from 99 to 2002.
No doubt. Hey, I just got on the horn with producer Lenny. Brandon Kintzler was traded by the Minnesota Twins on July 31st, 2017, a year when they made the playoffs, mind you. They traded their closer to the Washington Nationals for a pitcher by the name of Tyler Watson, who did not end up being a big factor. And they got some international bonus slot money. So that's I'd do that trade again, I think.
Who did they sign? Do you remember in 2017? Some international names. I don't think we need to get producer Lenny on that question, but it would be fun. One of those silly little trade trees, and you loop in, whoever they got with that extra $500,000 that they would have gotten for Brandon Kintzler, all-star Brandon Kintzler.
I feel like our friend Seth Stoves might actually know the answer to that, or he could give us a little bit of a rundown. So Seth, if you got those names at the forefront, please let us know who the Twins used that money on. Going back to the All-Star game too, though, just looking at the list of Twins who have made the All-Star game, there's some players that, high profile, really popular Twins that had excellent careers, who I was surprised to see only made one all-star team for the Twins. I'm looking at, team legend Kent Herbeck. He only made it 1 year with the Twins. Even after
I'm sure that he was fine with that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but
he probably preferred the break.
Still surprising to see. Nelson Cruz, I know that he didn't have the longest Twins tenure, but he had at least 2 or 3, plus campaigns, or at least first halves that you think would have contributed to more than just one appearance. He made the team in 2021 with the Twins, which I think of 2019 and 2020 as his better years. Obviously, there was no All-Star game in 2020. That contributed to it. Michael Kadire only made one All-Star team with the Twins. Brian Dozier only made one. The legend Christian Guzman only made one. Okay, that last one was a little bit of a joke, but still, the point remains that some of these, Twins, legends, I guess you could call them, only made one All-Star team with the club. With that down, though, what should there's a lot of ballyhoo in recent years about what the stakes of the All-Star game should be. It used to be whichever league won, they would host the World Series, or they would get home field advantage, I should say, in the World Series. What do you think? What do you think the stakes should be for this game? Or do you think it's appropriate how they have it now?
So this is a little bit of my old school leanings. I did like how they had it set up where I know that's probably a controversial opinion. I did actually enjoy that the All-Star game meant something. It meant home field advantage, especially in an era. Because when did that start? Because it wasn't as long as I think a lot of people remember it being.
Yeah, I forget.
But there, especially in eras where there was very little or limited or no interleague play, it kind of made a lot more sense that they had to find some way to determine which league would be responsible for hosting the All-Star game. There's kind of less of an argument for that at this point, because a third of your games are against National League teams or something along those lines. I don't know. I do want it to mean something. The baseball All-Star game is, and I only follow the MLB, the NFL and the NBA. So I don't know what the hockey or soccer All-Star games are like, but NBA and NFL, the Pro Bowl and the All-Star game have become such jokes. And I want there to be, I don't actually watch the All-Star game for baseball either, but I do want there to be like some semblance of baseball being played. And I don't know exactly what the stakes should be. If it's bonuses, whatever. I do have a soft spot for hosting the All-Star game based on who the All-Stars are, or the World Series based on who the All-Star winner was. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in your line of thinking too. Part of it too, from a personal standpoint too, you see a lot of guys kind of bow out. They're selected to the All-Star game. They're like, the 4 days rest mean a lot more to me than playing in this game. Maybe they've made a bunch already or something like that. I think that if they do opt to not play, that when they announce that early, when they say like, I'm not going to do it, I think they relinquish their all-star selection. Then they should not get that on the resume that they were an all-star player. And guess what? A lot of contracts center around things like, all-star appearances or all MLB.
What if you have a doctor's note?
Okay, maybe if you got a doctor's note, maybe we'll see. But
you get a doctor's note from Dr. James Andrews. You got to go to bring it by hand to the commissioner's office.
There you go. You got to get it notarized. Yep, exactly. But as far as the stakes go, I never got the sense that like, oh, these guys don't care. They're just screwing around out there. I think for the most part, everybody, it's a pride thing. They do want to perform their best. They're not going to kill themselves in the process, but I think they do want to, perform on the national stage for the most part. So the stakes, I don't think, are too big of an issue for the most part. I do want to kind of ask you a question on this kind of note. How do you feel about the All-Star? Like every team gets at least one All-Star. What's your opinion on that? I don't hate it. I think it's fine for the most part. I get more bent out of shape with things like the process, I guess you could say, for how they're selected, whether that's fan voting. I always get just a little bit, I don't know. I almost always have a problem with at least one player that gets voted in. And I get it. It's a fan event. They want to vote, you want people that fans are going to watch to be selected to the game. But I almost feel like the roster should be selected by whether that's the league's manager that year or, some sort of, somebody who could be held accountable a little better. And they select the rosters initially, and then fans decide from that pool of players who starts. You know what I mean? There's years like, remember when there was like 6 Kansas City Royals after they won the World Series, and like Omar Infante was like at second base and he was not very good at all. Matt Wieters got voted to start the All-Star game at catcher, and he only had 20 games under his belt for that whole year and was going to be hurt into August. Like, there's no reason why he should get an All-Star selection just because fans voted him in that way. So I think I would rather see that kind of switch. The selection process, so to speak. And we talked about it on our last episode too, but in this year's club, Clay Holmes from the New York Yankees was selected as a commissioner's office selection. Why is the commissioner selecting a player who can go, especially if it's going to be a, borderline selection? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
I got a kick out of when you said that you wanted somebody who could be held accountable. I'd love to know what the punishment is for the manager who chooses all of his guys to play in the All-Star game. When I was a high school athlete, goodness gracious, my Cleopatra, dang it. Sorry, she's knocking things off of the counter. Oh dear.
That's our PR person, Cleopatra, by the way.
She might be coming over to say something into the mic, but no. I would love to know like what so I was saying, like when I was a high school athlete, there was a scandal once where the All-Star game was being coached by one of the local high schools, and he named all of his seniors all-stars, and they all got to go. And it's like there's only so many spots on this team, and you just named half of the team was just your guys, including, guys that didn't play and other than senior night. But I do want to know how are we going to hold these renegade managers accountable?
Yeah. You're telling me that
never get to manage an all-star game again.
You're telling me that there's politics in high school sports as to who gets selected for a team? That sounds unheard of for high school sports. Unbelievable.
I do like the idea of all of the teams getting like one player. It's like everybody, this is we're going to represent the American League, so every team should be represented. Send us your best guy and we'll show the world. But again, that's more of an old school idea too.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So that leads us to our next question here. The All-Star game is not just about the game itself, but kind of the festivities that surround it as well. Obviously, Monday night had the home run derby, which a lot of people don't like. If you don't like it, don't watch it. That's fine. I think a lot of people still enjoy it, and at least the novelty.
Bring back the old rules.
Yes, that could be interesting. But what derby or event would you add to the mix that would be really fun to watch? The example that I give is that, and I think it's Japan's All-Star game. In those festivities, they have a bunt derby to see who can bunt it onto like a bullseye on the field and they score it that way. So what would you like to see as maybe like a event that you would add to this mix or some sort of derby?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there should be some way to have pitchers on display or something. I don't know if it's like a carnival game where you have all of the cups set up and you see if they can pinpoint control. They get 12 throws to knock down the 12 cups or something. We talked about MVP baseball on the last show. They used to have a little mini game where you had to throw like certain pitches in certain areas. I don't know though how we could actually put something together for pitchers. Sure. I do think it would be fun somehow to kind of take a page out of the NBA's book and design some sort of skills competition. This is a thought that I kind of came up with thinking about. There's this classic clip of Ichiro in rapid succession hitting baseball bats that are standing on their end, 4 of them in a row, just like catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, knock them all over. And I wonder, maybe there could be like a time skills competition that incorporates a number, maybe you start at home plate and you have to hit a home run, and then you have to bunt a ball inside of a target. Then you need to, sprint around the bases, and then you do a long toss and you've got to land it in somewhere, and then you knock over 4 bats or something like that. Like,
and then
some
you need
way
to slam a beer, and then you have to
you put the bat on your forehead and you spin around the bat 7 times. I don't know. Like, it could be fun. Like, it could be a drag. It could be kind of lame. But if they put together some sort of silly little skills competition that like somebody like Ichiro could dominate and see who the next Ichiro is, I think that would be actually kind of fun.
That would be fun. I would like to see a wrinkle into the home run derby where the competitors, when they are not hitting, when it's not their turn up to bat, they're out in the field and they can catch it in the air against their opponents, and that counts as some sort of an out, or it takes away a home run or something like that. And all the kids in the outfield are still going to be in the mix too. I'm just picturing like Pete Alonso, who gets really into the derby. I'm just picturing him like trucking like a 10-year-old and to try to catch a Vladdy Guerrero fly ball at the warning track or something. I think that'd be kind of fun, but quite dangerous.
They need to put the mascots out there. We all love seeing the videos of like the mascots running over children at football half times. Let's release 100 children out into the outfield like normal, but also like 5 mascots who are also competing for those fly balls. I want to see that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're advocating for TC Bear to be anywhere near children, honestly.
Greg. I said 5. I did not say which 5.
Fair enough.
You can choose 24 others and still not have to use TC.
Fair enough. Well, before we get out of here, I just want to get your way too early guesses as to who's going to be next year's Minnesota Twins All-Star. So for the 2025 game, and I don't even know where it's going to be, honestly, but where do you think? Who are your two early guesses?
My two early guesses.
Like TOO early, not, you don't need to select it. Just who do you think is going to be next year?
I don't know. It's hard to not say Carlos Correa,
Okay.
but that's a little bit of a layup. If I were to kind of go out on a limb, I feel like Royce Lewis is a little bit too much of a layup. The way that he has hit through his career, if he's just healthy in the first half, he should be an all-star. I'm going to say that Pablo Lopez is going to have a bounce back year next year, and he's going to be an all-star.
That would be huge. That would be awesome. I am going to say Joan Duran. I do think that he's going to continue getting that notoriety and that he will be selected, especially if it is Rocco Baldelli selecting the pitching staff, hopefully from a World Series run in 2024. That would be pretty special to see Joan Duran get the nod there. I want to say Christian Vasquez as a third baseman, but my heart's just not there yet. I need to see a little bit more from him. We'll see what happens.
Who's your dark horse?
What, that didn't count? Christian Vasquez as
a third baseman
doesn't count as a dark horse?
Somebody who, I don't know, like you would be, the vast majority of baseball would be surprised, but you could see it happening.
Okay. I'm going to say Mr. Zebulon Matthews, who has not even debuted in the big leagues yet, but Mr. Jamie Cameron, who's quite busy doing all his draft prep today, he assured me that Zebby Matthews is going to be one of the greatest pitchers in American League history. He's going to be better than Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer combined. He assured me of this, and I trust Jamie Cameron, and I think you should too. So Zebulon Matthews, 2025 All-Star. You heard it here first.
My pick for the Twins dark horse All-Star is Pete Alonso.
Whoa.
I'm trying to think of other guys who are going to be free agents next year, and I'm now drawing a blank.
Surely the Twins are going to spend a ton of money this offseason.
Yes,
get the polar bear up to the
albatross of Max Kepler's $10 million contract off the books. They're going to be ready to spend like $5, maybe even $6 million next year in the offseason.
let's not get too crazy. $5-6 million, man. Gee whiz. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good conversation we had as we head into the All-Star festivities here tonight. Like we said, thank you very much for joining us on episode 2 of our All-Star Podnanza. We look forward to chatting with you more. Like we said, we will be talking with Jamie Cameron, doing a recap of the MLB draft and the Twins selections. And then we are also going to have some other fun things mixed in, including our very first, Greg, Gripes Giving, where we just go back and forth with all the gripes that are getting on our nerves. I'm so excited for Gripes Giving. I am so hungry for that turkey, my friend. Any last words before we part ways?
I'm starting to get a little bit, protective of gripes giving. We can't just have everybody griping. You will be expecting a cease and desist letter in the mail in the next 5 to 7 business days.
Can't wait to gripe about it. Great. All right. Well, with that down, we want to thank you again. And as always, my friends, stay sweet.